Smoke detectors may have several considerations to look at. Let's take 2 minutes to talk about some of those other considerations. So, getting into it, we've got high rack storage. High rack storage is going to be considered high rack when the rack storage is greater than 12 feet high. When we have this, the detector location must consider the items, quantity, and the configuration of the items and the racks themselves. Detectors should be located on above each aisle and at intermediate levels throughout the rack to ensure that the best detection is being done. So, we want to install our detectors above the racks and at other levels along the racks, or maybe even possibly within the racks themselves, so that we can still have appropriate detection. Now, another thing that we take a look at is the detection method. Smoke detector response time can be affected by the detection method being used. All smoke detectors have the same listing test requirements. However, there are factors that can be used to select best detection for the application. We also see environmental factors play into the scope of how effective a smoke detector might be. So, for example, your ionization detectors, air velocities greater than 300 feet per minute are going to have an effect. Altitudes greater than 3,000 feet are going to have an effect. Humidity levels greater than 93% at room temperature going to have an effect. Temperatures that are going to be on the outsides of 32 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit absolutely going to have effect. Smoke color will not though. Photoelectric, the only things that we look at that have an effect on your photoelectric smoke detectors is high humidity, temperatures outside of 32 to 100, and the smoke color. When we get to your beam detectors, humidity and temperature are the only factors that are going to play into having an effect. And lastly, air sampling. Just like with your beam detectors, humidity and temperature are going to play an effect, but nothing else will. High air movement plays into quite a few of your detectors. High air movement rooms require spacing adjustments. We are looking at high air movements that exceed 8 minutes per air change or 7.5 changes per hour. Adjustment table based off of NFPA 72. This does not apply to above ceiling or below floor spaces. So here is that table. Based upon what your air change is, you have a spacing to go along with that. The table tells us the coverage of that detector. We'd have to find out what the square root of it is in order to figure out what that spacing is. We are also permitted to do underfloor mounting. However, there are correct ways of doing it and incorrect ways. Mounting directly to under the floor itself are acceptable. Doing what we would look at as kind of a sidewall mount are acceptable as well. Mounting to the bottom of the floor, however, no, is not acceptable. Any mounting that is not going to be flush and have a good connection, not going to be acceptable.